Okay, without further ado, and without losing our friends who are particularly interested in psychedelics, I would like to move on to the session that we call, which is the final session actually of this 3-day symposium, the session that we call Stories of Hope. And now, in a sense, we are going to move away from Elefsina, because we are, after all, the World Human Forum, so it will be also about Colombia, about Rwanda, about India, about Greece, and in fact about the whole world. So I would like to start Stories of Hope with Daphne Economou, who I think will, out of the many, many years that she has been working, she is the founder and honorary chairperson of Palsy disease in Greece, and she has lived many, many stories of hope through particularly difficult circumstances. So let's start with what somebody who has really spent her life trying to make the world a better place has to tell us today about stories of hope for the future.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you for allowing me to stand here. I fell down 2 months ago and managed to break half my right side. So I'm not very good at sort of running around with a microphone in my hand. So my subject today is living myths and the hope of regeneration. Human beings are steeped in myths and legends. They are part of our life experience and closely associated with our dreams and memories. We do not question them or try to explain them rationally, as they are part of our reality. Ancient civilizations built their beliefs, their culture, and the structure of their societies upon the mythical explanations that they had given to the questions they asked concerning the mysteries of nature. This is also true of primitive societies, as we were all primitive once, faced with a beautiful but also dangerous and mysterious world that we were trying to understand so that we would be less afraid. Let us pretend that we are primitive people living in a cave in some vast grassland. We see the sun during the day, which gives us light and warmth. But when the evening comes, the sun disappears from the sky and darkness falls. We see the moon and the stars in the sky, but we ask ourselves, where has the sun gone? And will it ever come again? We realize that the seasons change, the days grow longer or shorter, warmer and colder, that after a time of ice and snow, the trees put out their leaves again. And we ask ourselves, what or who is making all these things happen? And because we know that we do not possess the power to make the sun rise in the sky, we create gods and people out of our own imagination, and we give them human characteristics, but magical powers and specific duties to perform, so that they will guard over us when the winter comes, and they will bring the sun back in the morning, and they will bring the trees back and the trees and the flowers, and they will do all the things that we are not able to do. And we will ask them to make the rivers flow again and to calm the waves on the sea. And when we rub two sticks together to make fire, we know that this is a gift from someone or something beyond our understanding, but someone or something who cares about mankind. And when we sit around the fire in the long winter evenings, we make up stories to explain all the things we do not understand. And because we have no way of knowing the truth about the sun and the moon and the light and the darkness, our stories are full of imaginary things and mystery and wonder, and also of hope. And these are the myths and the legends that we pass down from generation to generation, so that they become part of our reality forever. We Greeks do not question whether the gods were mixed up in the Trojan War, whether Neptune was angry with Ulysses, whether Cassandra truly had the gift of prophecy. These are the stories that make us Greek. And our Christian rituals are full of ancient pagan traditions that have merged and blended naturally into our beliefs. We decorate Jesus' bier with wildflowers and sing him a mother's lament. We sing, "O my sweetest springtime, my most beloved child, how has your beauty waned?" This is what we sing to Jesus. Where has it come from? From very far back. And we carry him through the streets like a king or a hero. Our myths try to give us a sense of measure. They tell us not to challenge the gods, not to fly too close to the sun, to remember our Father's instructions, and to know that we always need a friend to hold the end of the twine when we get lost in the labyrinth. The importance of temperance and good judgment appear in all our myths and legends. But of course, as human beings, we are inclined to forget, and our very human gods have very human failings and are inclined to make tragic mistakes because of jealousy or rage or pride. Every corner of the earth has its creation myths and its regeneration myths. And of course, myths to explain the ultimate mystery of death and what comes after. Flourishing, regeneration, rebirth are some of the major themes of this symposium. And regeneration is, of course, the source of all hope. Without regeneration, there can be no hope that life will last and continue. And here in this mysterious ancient site of Eleusis, where we are foregathered, who could doubt that Persephone will return in the springtime to defy the finality of death and to bring the earth to life again? All over the world, her coming is anticipated and celebrated, and hope is reborn. And in some of the heart-rending laments that are still sung in Mani and in Crete, Dimitra's lament for her lost daughter can be heard through the ages. I will just read you the words of one of the laments that we still sing. You, my beloved child, have gone to the underworld and left your mother burnt by bitter death. My little one, where can I put my pain? Where can I hide my tears? If they fall on the black earth, not a sprig of glass will grow. If they fall in the water, the river will dry up. And if they fall in the sea, ships will surely sink. But if I hide them in my heart, I will soon come to meet you. I mean, this is Dimitra. This is Dimitra all the way. The same lament, the same lament. Myths record events that caused astounding changes in the way humans feel, think, and act. Events that took place so long ago that it is impossible for us to imagine such a distant past. The story of the Great Flood is still recorded from China to North America, and man's miraculous survival. In many different forms, but the story is the same. In this sense, mythological stories present themselves as truths and as accounts of actual happenings, imbued, however, with the wondrous elements of the unusual and the divine. An extraordinary revelation that I once had, without any help from psychedelics, was with a group of children with disability. We were telling them the story of the Minotaur and Theseus, and how Theseus went into the labyrinth to kill the evil Minotaur. And suddenly a little child in a wheelchair spoke up, and this is what he said. Who said the Minotaur was evil? Perhaps he was just a little different, a little ugly, and they had hidden him away in the dark. Perhaps he was just afraid. It makes you think how true these stories still are. Certain myths relate to events that seem to be outside of time and even beyond time itself. They go back beyond anything that ever was and begin before anything had happened. No attempt is made in a myth to prove the truth of the story. Its authority is in the telling, and the meaning of the Greek word mythos, which means word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The beautiful Melanesian myth of Quat, the creator, or the finding of time, the finding of night, begins. In the beginning, there was light. It never dimmed, this light over everything. It was bright, all light everywhere, and there was no rest from it. Under the light, there was a huge stone. The stone was the mother. It is all there, and what is not there, we can create together as our personal myth. Thank you.
Εσύ, παιδί μου, κίνησες να πας στον κάτω κόσμο κι αφήσες τη μανούλα σου χαροκαμένη. Παιδάκι μου, τον πόνο σου που να τον απειθώσω, αν θα τον ρίξω τριστράτα, τον παίρνουν οι διαβάτες. Κι αν θα τον βάλω στα κλάρια, τον παίρνουν τα πουλάκια, που να βαλθούν τα δάκρυα μου για τον ξεχωρισμό, τον ξεχωρισμό σου. Κι αν πέσουνε στη μαύρη γης, χορτάρι, χορτάρι, δε φυτρώνει, δε φυτρώνει. Κι αν πέσουνε στον ποταμό, στερεύει το ποτάμι. Κι αν πέσουνε στη θάλασσα, πνίγουνται τα πλοία.
Thank you very much for the choice of this song that reminds us of things long ago and how linked we are to our past, parents, grandparents, and ancestors, as Gina likes to say. Now we will move a little bit more around the world, and I would like to invite Laura Ulloa. Laura, is she around? Yes, please join us. Laura is a political scientist from Colombia, and she was a victim of violence in her childhood. But the idea here is that she will share her personal story. And we have, hopefully, if technology does not give up on us, somebody else from a country that you have all heard about for the terrible violences that took place there, which is Rwanda in Africa. And that is Freddy Mutanguha. And, oh, there is Freddy. Let me move. Hi, Freddy. Hello from Eleusis. Now, Freddy is the CEO of the Aegis Trust and director of the Kigali Genocide Memorial. I think you all know about the terrible Tutsi-Hutu violence and terrible war that took place there between people who were living and sharing a territory, and speaking today about reconciliation and, very importantly, about forgiveness is something that we felt was important. And in fact, in the previous session about psychedelics, when Tony was presenting, he spoke a lot about love and forgiveness in all this. So let us start with Laura first, and then that's an individual story, and from the individual story, we will move on to a collective story. Please.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Alexandra, Gerasimus, all the team, thank you very much for this invitation. My name is Laura, and I come from Colombia, a country in South America. In 1999, I was 9 years old. It was the first Sunday I was going to receive the Holy Communion after doing the Holy Communion 1 week earlier. And we were with my mother and my sister in a mass, together with other 200 people, when suddenly the priest, in the middle of the sermon, was interrupted by a soldier who ran to him and whispered something at his ear. Nobody knew what happened, but suddenly the priest put down his hands and told everyone to get out of the church and to move into 2 trucks that were parked outside, because there was a bomb underneath of one of the cars, and we had to go out and to evacuate into those trucks that were taking us to the nearest military base. Everybody got out immediately, but we never got to the military base. We were all being kidnapped by the National Liberty Army, and we were being taken far away from the city. These 200 people, some of them stayed for many months. Luckily, my sister, who was 5 years old, my mother, me, and other people were luckily liberated that day, but many others remained captive for months. It was very common in Colombia to have notices and news of kidnapping every day at this time and for many years. But in a way that day I felt a little bit lucky, because yes, it was horrible to be kidnapped. I felt a horrible panic together with my sister, my mother, everybody. But at the same time, who gets kidnapped and released the same day? That doesn't happen. So in a way I felt lucky. And next day I went back to school. And because, as I was saying, nobody gets it so easy, but also nobody gets kidnapped twice, like nobody wins the lottery twice. Well, it was not my case. And 2 years later, I was in the school bus. It was the 20th of September, 2001, almost one week after 9/11. I was in the school bus with my sister, who was 7, and other 30 students from primary, and I was about to get home when suddenly the bus stopped. 5 heavily armed men got into the bus, and the first one, with 2 guns in his hands, pointed to the ceiling of the bus and told everybody to put their heads down. Next thing I felt was a big rusty hand grabbing me by my arm and pulling me out of the chair. I only remember 2 things before I was dragged out of the bus. My sister, hiding with her school bag covering her, and the bus driver, the same guy that had picked me up since I was 4 years old, with his hands in this position and a guy pointing with a gun to his forehead. They took me out of the bus, put me into a car, and drove very fast until the end of the road where the mountain begins. Colombia is a tropical country, and we don't have forests, we have jungles. We went straight into the jungle, and as we walked in, everything started to get darker. We walked more or less 15 minutes in complete silence. They would always tell me not to look at their faces, even though most of them were covered. And after we stopped, we waited for a couple of minutes, and I started to see in the far, walking down the hill, the real guerrilla. What do I mean about the real guerrilla? These guys dressed as soldiers with camouflage, big guns. The ones that had kidnapped me were militias, so they had guns, but they were dressed as civilians like we do. These were the guys I used to see on the TV, the bad guys. the guys, all the kids in Colombia and everyone in Colombia were scared of. As they started to come near to me, the guy with the rusty hand tells me, Laura, you can start walking to where they are because you're going with them. I didn't say a word, I just started to walk, but after I had taken 3 steps, I felt again this rusty hand grabbing my arm and pulling me very hard. This guy pulls me towards he was, and he hugged me. And he hugged me so strong, I could feel his heart beating on my chest. And he tells me, Laurita, which is the nice way to call Laura in Spanish. Laurita, please forgive me. You're going to be okay. You know, it was a very confusing moment for me. This guy just kidnapped me 15 minutes ago. But I let that feeling pass. I was just in shock. I remember at that moment, the day before I got kidnapped, my mother was telling me where we were having lunch after school. Laura, imagine that somebody told me that Efrain, our ex-gardener, had joined the guerrilla. And I remember saying to my mom, that can't be true. He was so nice with my sister and me. I remember we planted trees with him. We helped him fertilize the plants. Mom, you can't believe everything they tell you. And so that day, I thought, well, I should regain calmness because I've already been kidnapped and it's not as bad as they painted. Probably I'll be back home tomorrow, late in a couple of days. But that didn't happen. And days started to go by, and I was still there. I remember trying hard to be nice, or not to be nice, but to receive something nice from them, a nice gesture, a slight smile, but that didn't happen. Days passed by. I had no news about my family, no news about when I was going to go back home. And I started to feel very sad. They were mean. They were not nice. I was never abused. I was never physically violent. But it was just very strange to be there. And so as time passed by and I felt they were not being nice, I decided one day that maybe I shouldn't be nice with them as well. And that if maybe I started to behave as bad as they did with me, and if I tried hard, I could be the worst version of myself, and maybe they would get sick of me and release me. I was 11 years old with a big imagination. And so I started to do that. And what happened? I was still there. Difference? I was lonelier. Nobody talked to me. I was very skinny, and I remember because the skirt of the school I was feeling it bigger, looser, and nobody would talk to me. And I remember thinking, in trying to be the worst version of myself, I actually became, but I'm not a bad person, and I don't want to lose myself. So one night, not being able to sleep, I got these thoughts, and I am a spiritual person, I'm a Catholic, and I don't know if it was God or what, but I just thought, if this didn't work, why don't I try being me again? Went to sleep, and next morning, I got up very early. And I say very early because I used to sleep all day long. Why? Because I didn't to be waken up and to live my reality. Now that we were talking about psychedelics and other medicine, I was thinking, I wanted in a point to drink something, to have something that would take my grief and my pain away immediately, like swallowing a pill and forgetting about everything, but it wasn't that easy. And I think life sometimes make you live through the things you have to live at its own pace, not at the pace you want them to happen. And so next morning, I remember waking up and there was a little hole in my tent. And I got near and I saw the boots of all of the gorilla getting into a shack where they would have breakfast. I tidied up myself and I went out of my tent. My heart was going to explode. I was very nervous. I got into the entrance of the shack and I stood up there. There were 30 gorillas, heavily armed, having breakfast because they're always armed. And I remember looking at them and telling them, hello, good morning. Did you sleep well? Everyone was just, what's going on? And then one of them said, you want breakfast? I said, yes. I sat down there. I don't know how I managed to swallow that breakfast because my heart was here. And when I finished, one of the guys stood up and said, I'm going to the forest to bring some wood for the fire, for lunch. Who wants to come? Laura, do you want to come? And I remember thinking, going to the forest alone with a guy with a hatch after being mean as I was. But I was trying to start over. So I said yes. And for the first time in 1.5 months, I felt useful. And time passed by faster. And that day, I felt happier again. But it was confusing because I was still captive. I missed my family, but I felt happiness and calmness. And you know, that day I said, you can feel good things even though you're going through a really hard time. And if that happens to you, well, I like the feeling. I like feeling happy even though I'm going through horrible things. And that day I also thought, maybe I should start knowing these people before hating them. And I started a very spiritual moment in my life that will change my life forever. Indeed, I started knowing them. I gave myself the opportunity to start talking to them, asking questions, and also opening myself for them to ask questions. We both hated it because we were, I don't know, maybe enemies without knowing. And at the end, what happens is that just like the year goes around, followed by the seasons, and you can't have summer without having winter, sometimes when you go through hard moments in your life, you can recover happiness, you can recover calmness again without feeling sadness, holding grief, and after that, feeling acceptance. And that's what happened to me. I accepted that I was kidnapped and that I could do nothing to recover my freedom. I only could do things that make me feel calmer during the time I was supposed to be there. I managed to understand that many of them had very difficult stories. Me, I knew that someday I would recover my freedom, but how about them? They've lost everything, their childhood, probably their future. If I died, I've had a nice family, a beautiful home, surrounded by love, an opportunity to educate myself. But what about them? So many months later, 7 months later, I received the news that I was going to be released. After those months, I can say there's people like in your classroom, I am sure, whom you'll never have a good relationship with because you think very different. But there are people like in your classroom that can become your friends, even though you come from different backgrounds, cultures. And that's what happened to me. The day I was going to be released, one of these guys tells me, before I was released, like minutes before, Laura, I know that you're going to go out and say we treated you very badly here and that you had the worst experience of your life. And you're going to forget about us. And I told this guy, you know what? I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell what I liked and what I didn't like. And I will never forget you. You know what? I promise that I will come back. I promise that when I turn 18 years old and I graduate from school, I will come back here. And I remember saying that not for one instance, thinking, going back for, I don't know, holding a gun and, doing the things they were doing, but because I knew there were very good people there, but led by really bad people. And I had the hope of coming back to the guerrilla and helping them recover their lives and do good things because I knew they had potential. Well, I turned 18 years old. I never went back to the guerrilla in that sense, but I studied political science because I wanted to understand the profound roots and causes of war in Colombia. I went to the Security Council in New York, where I had the chance to learn how other countries had managed to advance in successful peace processes, and I went back to Colombia to work in a reintegration process, which is the process in which ex-combatants are able to come back to society. As a victim, I've worked a lot to end stigmatization against these people who have it very rough, not only when they enter to the guerrilla, but also when they come back or when they get out, because society does not have a place for them. Some years ago, I was asked if I forgave them and when. And I said, I forgave them, and I forgave them while I was kidnapped. And I always say, for me, it was easier to forgive because I lived with them. And this word is very strong. And yes, because I was kidnapped 7 months. So I lived with them 7 months, and I went to many processes. As I was saying at the beginning, first it was very frustrating and it was very sad, but I was also able to accept them, to know them, and to forgive them while being with them. And forgiveness is something I want to share today, because at the end, forgiveness is something very selfish you do. I always say that we forgive for ourselves. And I also say that we forgive in different times, because when we go through a very difficult time in our lives, it's like we all put a book in our nose. We all know how to read. But when we have this problem so near, we don't have the enough perspective to understand what is happening. And we need time to make this book go a little bit further. And there is when we are to understand what we've gone through and how we have changed. So in this sense, I always say that every person have a different time for forgiveness. And well, that was mine. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story. So much for the power of real stories, real human stories. And now I'm looking, can I have him in front of me? Yeah, I do. Now I'm looking to Freddy, and I would like to hear from his perspective, being also in a more collective and institutional organization of reconciliation and forgiveness, in a sense, in Rwanda. And then we will open for questions from all of you, for both Laura and Freddy. So, Freddy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and hello, everyone. So, first of all, I would like to apologize. I couldn't be with you and have to use this technology, and I know it's never been like being there physically to enjoy and create and be with you, but apology for that. And Thank you, Laura, for your story, and very inspiring, very touching, and you're really brave, and really feel by listening to you that it's really there's a hope. What the question I'm going to respond in my story is that is just to reflect on forgiveness and whether forgiveness is possible, and I'll give you really some practical examples that respond to that question. So before I do that, I would like to say that I work for Aegis Trust. Aegis, as we understand, is a Greek name that really connects to what we are doing as Aegis, as people in Rwanda. Aegis actually being shelter, so protection, and I hope I'm talking to Greek people so you understand what I'm saying. So that's really great. Before I go so far, I would like to check if you can see my slide. Can you? Great. A little bit reminder where Rwanda is. I'm not in Rwanda at the moment. I'm in New York, but for a few days I'll be back to Rwanda tomorrow. But I want to say that Rwanda is in Africa, a very landlocked country, and it's a small country with 13 million people, and then it's a country of 1,000 hills. You can see the hills there. I've never been in Colombia, but I imagine that there is some similarities. And when you come to Rwanda, please welcome, and I will make sure that you see and you go to visit our friend gorillas, one of the countries that still have the mountain gorillas in the world. So this country been for many years and many actually since the existence of this country, been inhabitant of three socio-economic group of people. We have the cattle herders, the Tutsi, we have the Hutus as farmers, and we have the Twa. Those people been living in harmony for many years and for centuries without genocide, without massacre, without discrimination. They have complete each other because in most of the cases, the Hutu been actually getting milk to feed their children from the Tutsis, and vice versa, actually getting some food. And this is the exchange, and this complementarity was very harmonious. And this actually been how the Rwanda used to live. We had the same language, have some religion, some culture, some myth. They live side by side, no Tutsi land, no Hutu land. We had some intermarriage and socio-economic movement. You're able to, if you acquire a cow or many cows, you may exchange the status to become from Hutu to a Tutsi, or if you lose cows, you do farming for living. This was changed when we got during the colonial period. We first colonized by German, and Belgian took over after the First World War, and by having this, the colonial masters actually introduced the politics of divide and rule, where the Tutsi, they're trying to make sure that this connection, which was something they didn't like, because it was difficult to impose everything they want to impose. We had some church people who also came with the colonialists, and they wanted to change the culture of the country, want people to change the way of living, and this was difficult because people were so united, and they had to divide them so that they can root them. So they introduced the identity cards because it was difficult to differentiate people in the streets. It was really everyone have to have a paper, and in the paper you have to mention that you're Tutsi or Twa or Hutu, so that you can be identified through your papers. And this actually been a tool for genocide, which I will talk a little bit later. So in the process of dividing our people, actually the country was completely the values of the rituals and the culture has started actually to be destroyed. This led to 1959, a little bit before, because without resistance, the king was expelled from the country, was replaced by his son, who, when he refused, he reclaimed for independence in 1959, he was killed in a mysterious death. In that time, the colonialists they encouraged the Hutus to actually they select the extremist Hutus to start killing the Tutsis. Around 20,000 Tutsis were killed in a few weeks, and 300,000 around 300,000 Tutsi were actually expelled outside the country to in our neighboring countries. So from 1962 to 1994, the Rwanda was led by extremist Hutus who actually implemented the genocide. They had militias who were very well trained. In that time, the propaganda, the Tutsi were called cockroaches, the Tutsi were called enemies of the country, and the snakes. All the propaganda actually went on inciting the hatred in the country. And this led up to 1994, when 1 million of Tutsi were killed in only 100 days. So that was really very quick and speedy killings that was so organized and been really prepared for quite a number of years. The genocide destroyed our people, but also destroyed our infrastructure, destroyed our economy, destroyed our social fabric. And coming to my own story, when the genocide started in 1994, a little bit before, my parents had been persecuted. They were teachers, and my mother was a teacher at school, and she had to go through all difficulties to be sent to a school that's really impossible to get there because of how far it was. But at the same time, she'd been in prison multiple times. And in 1994, that was on 7th of April, we woke up in the morning and we find roadblocks everywhere in our street of our village. So my mother advised me to go to hide with my colleague and a friend. His name is Peter, who had me under his bed for a course of 2 weeks. Each and every time my family had been attacked, they could give the militias food or some money that they had home. And at Peter's family, they were very poor. They could eat once a day. And my mother used to bring me food each and every night and tell me the situation at home. So on 13th of April, she came during night and she was completely different. And she looked at my eyes and she says, "My son, we may not see each other again." I was a little bit shocked. And she continued to say, we've been very much attacked. and nothing left the home to give to the militias, and the killings so intensifying in our villages. So maybe we may not see each other again. But if you survive, be a man and be strong. That's really very strong words in our culture. And it means a lot. So that was true because she knew something awful will happen very soon. Because on 14th of April, our family was attacked and they killed her and my stepfather and the 4 sisters. I survived with my sister Rosette. We were 6 children, 4 of them were being killed. My sister were tortured before they get killed. They were thrown in a very long septic tank, and they were killed with stones that have been throwing on their head, crying for the help. As the septic tank that they thrown them in were not far from where I was hiding, I could hear the voices, crying and screaming, and this voice will never leave my mind. Let alone I heard that my mother and my stepfather actually were killed with machete and the clubs. So I started my journey as an orphan. Luckily, I took my way to school. And I have 2 things I want to share. Things that remind you that you're alone. They're not really only bad things. Because I've been really performing very well at school. And the time I start crying, because before today I cry, but the time of genocide, I couldn't really cry. But the first time I cried was 4 years later when I got my degree, actually after secondary school, after college. I graduated. The headmaster gave me my paper. I was the first one. I was the one who have the highest grade. He said that you performed very well. I could see my colleagues. They brought their parents. They brought their they invited the relatives, and when they start and someone will get a paper and hand it to someone to hug you, to say thank you. But I didn't have anyone to do that, and that's how I started crying. People thought that I'm crying because I'm happy. I got high marks, and I really performed very well. But I really felt that loss, and that I felt that absence, and this is the time that made me to cry a lot. Another moment it made me cry too much is the time I got married, and when a photographer asked me to go aside with my family and then my wife, and actually to go to another side with her family, then we can have a separate pictures. I say on my side, I have few people, only my friends and my sister. And I could see the faces I was seeing behind me that when we're taking pictures, there's that loss. I felt it very, very much. So I continued my life and went to, and as you heard in the introduction, I went to work for this memorial, which is Kigali Genocide Memorial. That was 2020, 20 actually, 2004. Sorry. In 2004, I was hired to work for this memorial. 2 years later, I became director of this memorial. And this actually has been my journey to recover, because my commitment to talk about the history of genocide, my commitment to talk about what happened to my family and the family of many people in my country have been really, actually, I have been gaining a strength and I've been gaining really, I felt very, very much stronger and stronger when I keep talking and also working for the Kigali Gens Memorial. In Kigali Gens Memorial, we created because my background as a teacher, I created a peace education program because I felt that I should really contribute to the, of course, understanding the history of what happened, but also to contribute to the future of this nation and also to the future of the world and the future of young people who are really my contribution to prevent this to happen again. So by creating this, I had to actually to talk more about peace, talk about forgiveness, talk about reconciliation process, because the country was developing, but we need to also to develop in our mind and our hearts. So I was lucky to be one of the teacher for these lessons. So I've seen people through this program coming together and hug each other, the children of perpetrators and the children of survivors. And my first test was, you cannot give what you don't have. And if I don't forgive, if I don't take this process, either I stop teaching about this one, if I feel I cannot continue, or I felt actually I need to embrace this, because I have seen the beauty and of forgiveness and the beauty of reconciliation and reconcile with your people. So
Freddy,
by doing that, yes.
you can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so
Yes.
I would like to stop here, but because we want to continue all together. We just heard a very individual story, and then we heard an individual story that became a more collective effort. And I would like to come back to you, but first I would like to ask Laura, you found the strength in yourself, although you were a child, to forgive and to continue your life. And I was just wondering, is there in Colombia work done for more collective reconciliation? Are there programs like the one Freddy referred to? And have you ever benefited from something like that?
Hi. Yeah. Yes, that's a very good question. In Colombia, after the peace process was signed with the revolutionary forces from Colombia back in 2016, there was a collective movement of a truth commission done in Colombia, like it was done in South Africa, but it wasn't very successful, sadly. Because in this truth commission, what happened was that they brought together victims and victimaries so they can speak, and at the end, the idea was that the terrorists could ask for forgiveness. And I participated, but someone from the terrorist group whom I never met was going to ask for forgiveness in the name of the FARC. And it is very impersonal, that process. You want the responsibles to ask you for your forgiveness. In my case, it was different because I naturally forgave them, and I forgave the ones who did the harm to me while being kidnapped. But many other people weren't very happy with that process because they wanted to see face to face the actual perpetrators, not someone, that.
And Freddy, can you work like that in Rwanda? Can you find people who have been face to face, obviously with so many deaths? This seems impossible in fact, but are you still trying somehow to link victims, families of victims to perpetrators, or are you just working in a general way, particularly as now there is a new generation of young people in Rwanda growing up who fortunately have not experienced this terrible situation we are discussing about?
Yes, this is true. And if you see again my slides here, I give you an example. The people in Rwanda, they've been through the reconciliation and forgiveness process. And I'll give you an example of Maria and Philbert. Maria, the lady here, and she lost seven of her children, and they were killed by Philbert. You see Philbert actually close to Maria. And this, Maria decided to forgive Philbert, and they live in the same village, and they are neighbors now today, and they're sharing most actually their lives. So the second, because I see I have to be quick, the second example is myself. Through the whole process I went through, I decided to forgive, and I went to visit the person who was leading the militias who come to kill my family. His name is Samson. He's in a prison today. He's in a prison not because he killed so many people. He has a life prison because he raped so many women. But for me, I decided to forgive him. Together with his deputy leader, who was both of them, they came to my house, and they killed my family, so that I can forgive them. So we had it's a long story, and how we connected and how we made discussions. It takes long together. It takes 17 years to do that, and because I knew where they are, but today I feel I can forgive them. So these are the cases.
Thank you. Thank you very much, but I do want to take 2 questions at least. So who wants to ask a short question, whether to Laura or to Freddy?
I wanted to ask you both, in your respective stories, I often hear nowadays a lot of excuses for bad behavior, and kind of asking people to say, yes, you cannot expect good behavior from this person because look how difficult their life was, so we kind of have to accept suboptimal behavior from people because not everyone can be so strong. Now I hear your stories, and you've gone through unimaginable experiences and horrors, and yet both of you have managed to come out on the other side more compassionate, more sensitive, stronger, rather than weaker, more resentful, more angry. And I would like to ask you, do you think that you're just lucky that you're such strong people, that you just have strong psychologies or good genetics, or do you think that there is more to it, that maybe you can say from your experience to people what you maybe did, other than being lucky with your personalities, to come out of these experiences with more compassion rather than more resentment? Maybe your faith helped, I don't know, in both of your cases.
Well, that's a very good question, and I would like to answer by explaining a little bit, very short, the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness, as I was saying at the beginning, the way I see it, the way I feel it, is that it is for me. So as for my captors in the first instance, I forgave them first because I wanted to get rid of the pain, of the grief, of that feeling of hatred. I wanted to recover peace, you know? And in recovering peace, I felt I also gain a couple of friends. And that's forgiveness and reconciliation. Why reconciliation? Because reconciliation is saying, I forgive you and I want to be near you again because you make me feel good. But what about forgiveness and not reconciliation? That's also possible. It's when you say, you know what, I forgive you, but I don't want to see you ever again in my life. Why? Many times happens because people have one chance. You give one chance to people in your life. If they mess up, you know it's very difficult, they're going to change. So it's sometimes better to keep them far. And that will be, for me, the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. And the reason why it's not that we are gifted, it's just, or in my case, I'm going to speak for me, it's just that forgiveness for me, it's for me. It's personal.
Freddy?
Yes, thank you, Laura. I think we'll be saying a little bit the same thing because forgiveness helps to relieve the toxic anger and toxic resentment that really block you to move forward and to move forward with a peace. And this is really something very healthy for everyone. If you manage to cross this this level of making a step forgiveness, it first of all, it helps you. But also, what I want to say is that it also helps the people surrounding you, because the psychologists this time, they showed that the more you live with anger, the more it even attached to your DNAs, and the more you can transfer it to your generation. The next generation will inherit your anger, your resentment, your sorrow. So that's really something that you feel you need to release your body and feel better about this one. And then for that moment, even your community, because when you forgive, you know actually you cannot revenge. You cannot be harmful to your neighbors and to people even made wrong to you. So the community get they get your community actually they gain from your forgiveness. Maria, that I just shown you, she made 2 steps. Step 1, she forgave Philbert, and then she made another step to reconciliation, because now they live in one village and they share so many things. Myself made also that step because I want to see them. I want to see my family, their families, and when there is anything happen in their families, they call me without a problem. So these are 2 steps that Laura was explaining. But this takes time, is really personal, is not really something that you can predict when and how it happened to individuals, because it's really, really personal.
Okay, maybe one last question. Yeah, over there.
Thank you so much for 2 wonderful personal stories, which of course are just a small sample of something that affected a much wider group of people. So some of the elements that I saw in your stories include the question of course, forgiveness, reconciliation, memory, empathy too, in the case of being able to actually see the world through the eyes of your own perpetrators and victims, right, that were keeping you in that respect. But beyond that, I would like to ask more of a forward-looking question. Many times these conflicts happen not necessarily because of a random accident, but because of the fact that there are interests that would like to create such conflicts, create wars of many different kinds. How can we make, through the experiences that you had, the populations of the future much more resistant to any such powers that would like to create the next conflict? How can we use the new capabilities that we might have today in order to be able to not only increase empathy in a more systematic sense, but also to plant the seeds within the children of the future towards having this resistance, so that such things do not happen.
So, who wants to go first? It's a difficult question because I'm afraid we're just going through and living two terrible wars, which have very much to do with what we just heard. But anyway, who wants to give a try? Freddy, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is really difficult question, but at the same time, my simple answer, very humbly one, what I realized when in my experience by running the memorials and also dealing with the genocide and mass atrocities, in my experience, people who prepare and the masterminders of the killings and the wars, they are not very many. But what they do, they have a way to manipulate the people to rally behind them and do what actually they have in their mind. So what we can do this time, because the people, even our perpetrators, when you go to see them, they say, use it. Why did you do that? They don't have full answer for themselves. They tell you, yes, we went to this meeting. We didn't feel that what they're telling us is true. And what they did. So that's how can we get people to be resistant to manipulation? By creating these skills of critical thinking, by creating this sense of empathy, because when you have these values and skills of empathy, you go in the shoes of your of the person you want to do wrong to. So this is we need to find a way to create this critical thinking so people can question why you want me to hate these people, why you want me to fight these people, and doing it with empathy would be really amazing. But at the same time, when you have critical thinking and empathy, but also you may be able to make responsible actions, and this is really something is lacking with people, and at the same time. I don't want to talk too much about this one, but the forgiveness practice, but the forgiveness that we're talking about is to really show that even perpetrators themselves, they can be part of the process of recovering, but at the same time they can be the examples to show how what human being is capable to. Because nobody born as a bad people, a bad person. We learn about it. So we can also learn about how to live together.
Freddy, thank you. And in a sense, of course, it brings us back to what we heard yesterday morning about the inner developments framework. And this is why we as World Human Forum commit to work with all the other hubs around the world to develop those skills and qualities, where forgiveness is one of them, empathy is another one, critical thinking is another one, optimism is another one. So yes, thank you very, very much for your contribution here. Laura, do you want to add something? Obviously you will stay around with us. You want to add something on this?
I just wanted to add that it's important to have better education in order to have a better communication. When we talk, many times the only visibility these terrorist groups have is their leaders, and their leaders do not represent everybody. And it is very sad because the lack of education, like in countries like Colombia, made all these young soldiers or young terrorists just followers. They don't even know what they're doing. At the end, they end up in the middle of war, regretting their decisions. But how different the world would be with better communication, with better education, and with a better communication. We shouldn't be at war anywhere.
Well, thank you both. Thank you both.
Very much.
Thank you very much. There couldn't be a better way to end than what Laura just said, because our two last examples of stories of hope, one of them, and it's going to be the last, has to do precisely with education. But before that, and I would like to invite already Anezina. I cannot see her. Oh, there she is, up there. I would like to invite Anezina to join us here. And I would also like to invite Hrishikesh, of course, to join us too. So we have two very different approaches here. Hrishikesh Pawar is a dancer, and we have said a lot about how art can heal us. It was one of our main themes throughout this symposium. And in a sense, Hrishikesh could have spoken yesterday and maybe even the day before yesterday. But no, we kept him for the end because we felt that the way he works with dance is really a real concrete, tangible message of hope. So let's start with Hrishikesh.
Okay. A couple of years back, I've been invited to a lot of medical conferences because of my work. And I was heading the conference, and I told the doctors not to use any artwork to explain anything about the brain. And they kept sending me panic emails saying, but how do we do it? Why do we do it? How can we do it? People will get bored. And I said, well, that's what the job of arts is. For a long time, like many others, I used to romanticize the idea of arts being the center of everything in life and society. We all like to eat. We all love a good wine, good food. Food defines culture. What's the one ingredient that is very important in food? One ingredient that is important in food. Salt. Very little, very effective. And that's what I did with my arts. I didn't want it to become the epitome of the city. I said, how do I sprinkle it? How do I create jobs? How do I create monitoring systems? How do I standardize processes? And how do I make it an accessible commodity? And I call it a commodity because then I have a price, I have skilled laborers, and I look at how much and how do I value a person's life. Because it's wonderful to say, oh, you're an artist, why don't you come and do it? You know, I mean, which is a lot of us over here, we've heard it and we've lived it. So before I invite you all, may I request you to please stand up? Because I can't stand, I can't just sit and talk. I wish I was that person. Wonderful. Like what we did, I'm going to just close the loop for you guys. What we did on day one, if you can raise your right hand. Beautiful. And if you can raise your left hand, lovely. All right. So what we're going to do is let's start with our right hand on your shoulder. The right arm on your shoulder. And we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing a T. Very easy, yeah? We always say 8 because if you make the 8 horizontal, it becomes infinite. There's a possibility there. So we'll just do it till 8. One more time, yeah? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bravo. If only you could see yourselves. You guys look so beautiful. We have the left side, yeah? The left on the shoulders. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful. Can we have the music? And let's combine the left and the right side together. Okay? Good.
Teach me to dance, will you? Did you say dance? Come on, my boy.
Nice. Can we try it again? 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Arms, hips. And last, let's do it one last time. And go. All right. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you. Isn't it wonderful? I mean, we are in Elefsina, where theater was created. It's one of the most magical spaces, one of the most effective tools in education. Let me invite you now, because of time constraints, we are still a dance company and a dance school. But when I wanted to start something, I thought, what do I do to think about art? How do I not make art boring? Because we as artists, I mean, you can do festivals, work with choreographers, work with cinema, theater, what next? So this was thrilling for me. What I'm going to show you is a short clip of one of our longest running works in an underprivileged brothel in a city of Pune. And I want you to give 1 minute of your time to this little clip that we're going to watch. The clip.
मला डान्स खूप आवडतो. आत्ता आवडायला लागला खरं तर. पहिले नव्हता आवडायचा कारण की मला डान्स येतच नव्हता. आता आवडताना दुसरे म्हणतात की तू छान करते, त्यामुळे असं वाटतं की करावं. ऋषिकेश दादा शिकवतात, त्यामुळे मला कंटेम्पररी फॉर्म फार आवडतो, कंटेम्पररी स्टाईल. मी आता कोरिओग्राफ करू शकते एखाद्या सॉन्गवर.
शिकवलं तर यायला लागलं तर तसं करू लागले मी. तर आता मला डान्स खूप आवडतो. की मला वाटतं की मी खूप चांगलं डान्स शिकून आणि दुसऱ्यांना पुढे शिकवलं.
A lot of these students now work with us. But there was something that was uttered and shared in this film that was very, very profound. Could somebody resonate with it? If somebody can remember it, can somebody share it again? I know that it's a quick film with a subtitle, but was there something that resonated with you all? Or with someone?
Thank you. Could it be that she didn't know, or she didn't like to dance initially, then she learned how to dance, and then she wanted to teach others how to dance?
Teach others to dance. What does that mean for a young adult? What are we creating? I want to teach someone. I want to be somebody that somebody is going to follow. What does that mean?
I think they're becoming leaders in their own right. And what I loved hearing was the word love. I mean, we heard it from many of the students. I love to dance. I have come to learn to love to dance. And I think that that's a huge gift that will keep on giving throughout their life. So it was very inspiring to watch.
Thank you.
Your work there. And thank you very much for it.
One of the things that I really profoundly feel is that there has to be an effective, measured space for young entrepreneurs, as young as somebody like an Avanti who is 11 years old. Today, this girl runs her own house, runs and travels the world, goes to different spaces saying, hey, if I could do it, so can you. And in 2024, we as adults would not run like headless chickens saying, who is going to be the next prime minister or a president? If our systems are in place, we will have right thinkers. And that brings me to our earth that we've been talking about. I feel that our earth, for me, feels like a ready-made home that has been built and sold to me. So I have to figure out the furniture that fits a ready-made home. I have younger people, I have young adults like me, and I have senior citizens. And all three generations needed to get together. We started a program called the Dance for Parkinson's Disease, which is a rehabilitative program, quite effective. We have about 186 dancers between the age of 50 and 91 dancing with us from Monday to Friday for an hour or 90 minutes with a cognitive movement disorder like Parkinson's. It's been in cooperation with the Sancheti Institute of Orthopedics and Rehabilitation Center, which is the second largest orthopedic center of India. It's also with the Parkinson's Friends Association. Mitra is friends in Indian language, and is an affiliation to the Mark Morris Dance Group. I'm very happy to say that from a small city like Pune, the work operates in Germany, the work operates in the south of the US, and the work operates in pan-India. What do we work on are 4 symptoms of Parkinson's. We improve their gaits. We make sure that their balance is fine. We make sure that their tremors are in control and they have cognitive mobility. And of course, a sense of community. One of the greatest gifts that I think the profession of arts has, a performing community and an audience as a community. How do we measure these outcomes? As I said, I don't romanticize things. I like to keep them real. So at any given point, if you point out at any of our participants and say, hey, what's the change that you think dance has made for them? I'd be able to prove it to you. After every 90 days, so that's about 37 approximate sessions of an individual, we have these 4 scales where physiotherapists come in. They've been designed in such a way that we kind of keep the meter on. And after every 90 days, we monitor it. This also helps me to design a curriculum of movements that's more result-oriented and sees how it is working with individuals as a group, and there are certain symptomatic works and clinical population that we work with. So COCD, the Center of Contemporary Dance, which was my school that I started, is designed to really customize the program because in India, though dancing is a part of our culture, we had to bring it to this sort of a space. We had to make sense of anybody who's retired, and I'm telling them to get together and dance. It's also a sculpture between man versus woman. Oh, how can I dance in front of a man? How can I come leaving my house? How can I come leaving my wife? So on and so forth. So the work has been designed to fit in a global body, and very, very accessible. Also makes it very exciting in terms of music and in terms of the kind of literature that we're using. A little glance into our class.
जेव्हापासून ती क्लासमध्ये जायला लागली त्यावेळेस तिच्यात आम्ही इमोशनली सगळ्यात मोठं आम्ही हे बघितलं की तिला कॉन्फिडन्स आला. इनफॅक्ट तिला लोक उत्साहमूर्ती म्हणून लागले.
तर मी आशा एक मला वाढली की नाही आता मी व्यवस्थित होऊ शकेल यांच्या क्लासबद्दल. कधी क्लासचा टाईम वेळ होती ना कधी मी जाती पटकन असा होतो मला.
Most important is which is required for Parkinson is I'm more cheerful now.
They're always constantly looking out for being a part of this everyday morning class. And also it has become a social sort of a part within the city where people meet, talk, discuss, share, laugh, cry. And also to look at the benefits of how it has improved lifestyle in today's given world.
I think, thank you. I wanted to work with young dancers coming to a dance school to learn dance. And to grapple with reality shows and Instagram, this is a great conversation starter to relook at what the space is offering the city, what we are offering each other, and individually, how can I participate? It's a wonderful lesson for dancers to also get beyond a technique and get beyond this idea that, oh, I'm not getting enough work. It's a great validation for them to get up in the morning and see an 80-year-old 91-year-old or a 51-year-old making an effort to a dance class. I don't have to tell my 16 or 18 or 20 or 22-year-olds of boredom. They all get together. I don't have to talk to them about discipline. I don't have to talk to them about focus. Pandemic brought in Zoom. We all spoke about technology. We've used it now to go pan-India to different parts of the states, cities, villages. The classes now have an eclectic choice of music, and whoever is facilitating the class is also well versed with the languages so that people are not left out. Guwahati is up in the mountains, Ahmedabad, Ahmednagar, Gujarat, Bangalore, all of these cities benefit by it. But mind you, we've also studied technology to make it an effective program. We've redesigned movement work that fits a Zoom class so that it's effective. And again, really, really measuring who participates in it and how can we sort of create this sense of reality for them even though they're at home. And there is another class that we do offline, which is, of course, a dance studio. Everybody comes together, but it's still got the same feeling, or that's what we're trying to kind of achieve in the last few years. The film that you saw is almost 10 years old. These are some of our people. So if you'll always see, all our documentation will have all my young dancer team working with these people. They're all full-time dancers managing these classes. This is one part of our community work. We have 6 other verticals working like this with different schools, IB schools, universities, some very posh localities to urban places, because I think that's what our society is made up of. That's in Germany, in the south. These classes are held in German language. Of course, they're modified. They're also being accessible. The idea was to also bring people from all walks of life together to say, okay, if we're in Pune, so what? How can we work around them? Helfred and Margaret have been dancing with us for the last 3 years, and they're full of love, and that's what I get, a big heart every time I teach them. This is some of our team members. I'm sharing them with you is because their disease now is being converted into advocacy. Their shame now has become a sense of pride. They go out, talk about the disease, talk about work. We just spoke about normalizing conversations. This we've started 18 years back. and leaving you with a performance that we did 4 months back. We traveled to Mumbai. If you've ever been to India, traveling by road is not easy. We have a group of 15 dancers in the age group of 76 and 89. This is just a glimpse. All right? Are we ready? I won't play it. I'll just go next. If you guys are not ready, it's not fair on them. Are we ready? Good. Good. To watch the entire show, either come to Pune or get onto our Instagram. But that's what separates us from therapy and counseling modules. We've taken them on stage, we've made conversations real. This vertical of performing artists is completely segregated to our performing groups. But this is something that they do time in and time out again. Their shows are sold out, not because they have Parkinson's, because they're genuinely good shows. Because a journalist once said, is it because, no. And somebody actually told him, no, they dance better than dancers, which is true. You know, because they're not worried about techniques, they're more worried about textures. It's so real. And it's a great reminder for people to share what age has got to do with us and our movements. And that's why we dance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And indeed, I saw myself a film in New York because the same work is happening in New York, as you well know, an amazing film of a woman who couldn't move but could dance. I will never forget it. So I was very, very pleased when we discovered your work happening from India and coming hopefully also now to Greece. I can take 1 or 2 questions for Hrishikesh, because the next and last story of hope has nothing to do with that. It has to do with education, although everything is connected. So is there any question around over there or over here?
It's not really a question. I just would like to say that what you're doing makes so much sense. And especially for older people, and we are told to do gymnastics or to walk around the block or to do all sorts of incredibly boring things. And I mean, this is just perfect. And I think it would inspire any older person because it's so meaningful. And and I'd just like to tell you, I spent my whole childhood in Madras. I grew up in India.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So let's move to...
Just to add on to that, sorry, before I forget. I think, yeah, you're right. I think aging can be quite an exciting process if it's made to be exciting. And I also feel that the program brings in the spontaneity, the craziness of young energy, and it also brings in the wisdom and experience that an older body has to offer. And I think it's a great melting point for art to flourish in the right conversational textures. So yes, I agree. Thank you very much.
So we will move on with our last story, but before, do we have the wonderful young art students with us who are working on art together? Come on, come over here. We have started 2 days ago our own art project here in Elefsina. It was just a white wall, a white canvas. You can go out and look left, and you will see what we all have done. I haven't yet, but I promise I will, with the help of those wonderful two young ladies who have helped us realize that we can just take up some color and paint something and put send our message to the world through that. Do you want to say something? I would love.
We would like to thank Maria Papadimitriou for having us here, helping her. We would like to thank you, everybody, for having us here and letting us drawing and maybe joining us and draw anything that you like. And maybe after the talk, anyone who feels like they want to touch some paint, they are welcome to fill all of the white with colors. My name is Elpida, this is Penelope. We are also with Ioanna Liaru that helped us during the 3 days. We would like to thank you.
So, for those of you who haven't done it yet, and who feel they can do it and want to do it or want to try it, you know, we have sort of pushed you to dance, to move. So maybe you can also do some painting outside. Now, over to Anezina. But let me just introduce a little bit this project. This project is a project that we found in India. You see, India seems to be the country of our heart this year. It has started by a wonderful woman who used to be a designer. She had nothing to do with education. And one day she just decided that she didn't want her little boy to go to school, to lose his creativity, to lose his pleasure in learning, to lose his desire to understand the world, and to be both creative and lose also his critical thinking and much more. So what did she do in the true spirit of what we believe should happen in the World Human Forum? She decided to create her own school. So she went out and created the Riverside School. That was 20 years ago. 20 years later, you will hear from Anezina what has happened. But it's a wonderful story. Kiran Sethi was with us in Delos a year ago or 2 years ago. 2 years ago. That's where Kiran and Anezina met. I should say that Anezina is an astrophysicist, is that it? Yeah. Anezina is an astrophysicist. She was in Delos because of the connection to the space. She works for the Greek Space Center. So she too had nothing to do with education. But those two women spoke about Kira's project. Anezina loved it. And 1 year later, they both came back to us at the World Human Forum and said, look, you have done a very productive connection here. We would like to start Design for Change in Greece. And this is what is happening now. And this is why Anezina is here. And this is why she deserves a huge applause before she even starts.
Thank you so much. This is very kind. I think there is a straight link to our previous talk by our speaker, because you talked about empowerment, and Laura talked about the need for better education. So I think that's what this program is. So I'm very excited. I have been invited to talk about something truly inspiring, the power of community and the empowerment that the Design for Change program fosters. As the title you see here suggests, and as Alexandra said, I'm a planetologist, which means that I study the planets and moons of our solar system, but also the exoplanets and exomoons of other solar systems. And as a scientist, I see many parallels between how we explore space and how we approach problem solving here on Earth. In both fields, we need what I call the 3 C's. We need curiosity. We also named a rover that is right now on Mars, Curiosity. We need collaboration, and we also need the courage to think beyond the status quo. The Design for Change program fosters these exact qualities in the individuals and the communities it touches. It empowers people, especially young people, to see that they are part of something larger. And as part of my job, I often say that, we are guests on a planet that is part of a solar system that is part of a galaxy, and a galaxy that is part of a universe. And in our universe, we have 2 trillion galaxies. So at the same time, we're very important, we're very significant, but insignificant at the same time. But all of us, we need to be present, we need to be here, as does the universe. That's how the universe works. So Design for Change empowers people, and what it does is that it says that their actions have meaning and can contribute to the flourishing of both society and nature. Even though I investigate the universe, so in a sense, I'm on psychedelics without being on psychedelics, my life is deeply rooted here on Earth within the communities that we all share. And in these communities, I do witness firsthand the impact that we have on each other, and especially the impact that we have on the natural world. And this is why the Design for Change program resonates so deeply with me, as it brings together 2 key elements that I believe are essential for both universal but also personal growth. And these are empowerment and, of course, sustainability. And now let me tell you how I got into this program, how I got connected with Design for Change. And as an authentic Greek, this happened over food, of course. So all of you, I think you're familiar with the Delos Global Gatherings organized by the World Human Forum each spring. And at one of such gatherings 2 years ago, it happened that I sat next to Kiran Birsethi, the visionary behind the Design for Change program. Now that I know better Alexandra, I'm sure that just didn't happen. Alexandra makes things happen and then they work. So over the course of a delicious dinner, Kiran shared the incredible achievements of Design for Change, and it became clear to me that this initiative needed to come to Greece as a powerful educational tool. The Design for Change program is based on a very simple idea. Anyone can drive change. It encourages young people and communities to identify local challenges and work toward practical but positive solutions. The program's emphasis on empowerment through action and creativity is invaluable, not only for the communities that are involved, but also because it fosters a mindset on hope and innovation in a world that, let's not kid each other, that often leans towards fear and passivity. From my long experience working on large-scale scientific missions for NASA and for ESA, the ability to envision and enact change is crucial. And that there is no different thing to do in a personal, in a community, and in a local level. So, I'll cut to the chase. The methodology is broken on 4 steps and explaining the abbreviation FEEDS, and that's feel, imagine, do, and share. What makes this method particularly innovative is that the social change must come from the students, it must come from the kids. Of course, the mentors play an important guiding role, but they remain on the background, allowing the children to lead the way. So this year in Greece, we have the Design for Change Greece. Our team ran a pilot program involving 4 schools, 2 in Athens, 1 in the island of Naxos, 1 in the island of Mykonos. 5 teachers participated, and an impressive 88 students were involved. Some of the themes that the students worked on, they identified these problems and they worked towards a solution, are parking issues in their cities, the stolen caryatid and the Greek marbles, climate change and illegal coastal constructions, war and violence. So our team from the World Human Forum, Gerasimos, Myrto, Alexandra, we reviewed these 4 outstanding projects, and the school that won the challenge during this pilot phase was, drumroll, the 11th Elementary School of Korydallos. The challenge involved 16 students, led by the incredible teacher, Miss Elisa Giamali, that is sitting there. Would you stand up, please? Thank you. Would you like to join us? Join us. So the students identified, and I think you will feel for this problem, the issue of illegal parking in Korydallos and the problem it created for the well-being of the citizens. They decided to create flyers and cards with the slogan, "Think before you park." The cards and the flyers also included a QR code and which offered guidance and advice for responsible parking. So the way they shared, so that was the do part, the way they shared that is that they shared the action in the school's webpage, but also they wrote a letter to the mayor who's over the moon with this initiative and will take action. So as someone who grew up in Korydallos and never experienced anything like this, so Korydallos is a suburb that is really close to Piraeus. Both me and Elisa grew up there back in the 80s. So we hope that with this program we'll educate better students and we will have better citizens. So as I was growing up there, I never had this chance to have access to such a tool. So this challenge filled me with hope. I know that these students who identified a problem that deeply affects their daily lives and who devised the solution are already better citizens. They're already empowered, and I hope this experience provides them with even more positive tools for the future. So this is proof that when communities thrive, they create a supportive network that encourages inner development and fosters resilience and emotional growth in every individual. This year, LFC's theme, Beautiful, intertwines with the idea that when our communities thrive, we thrive, and so does the natural world. Thank you.
To say a few things about Korydallos, and let me just say that since I heard about what the children in Korydallos decided was the challenge they wanted to address, which is the amazing way Greek people have to park just anywhere they find a place without thinking about people who cannot walk or babies and all that. I was so surprised that I keep asking everybody I meet, saying, what would you say kids in Korydallos consider as a problem they want to address? I can assure you nobody thought it was that. But everybody who hears about that story is very impressed, and I think it's going to be a wonderful flagship to expand this project. But before we take some questions and you can say something, let us just watch a very small video, not yet from Greece, but from India. that is not a story of hope, then I don't know of anyone. So do you want to say a few words, or you speak in Greek or in English?
In English is fine.
Okay.
Well, I have to say that I also was very proud for my students because we had discussed a lot of issues. We had to discuss a lot of issues before we could decide on which one we were going to focus. And most of the things that the children, said that they were concerned or worried about were not about themselves, but they were issues that the community or the school faced. So they were thinking about others, and this for me was, I study these kids and I know them, but sometimes during everyday course you forget how children can empathize and how they can inspire you. So I was inspired by them too. They worked hard and they were very enthusiastic about the project because this is something that it's a method, let's say, of teaching that we don't use. So they felt that this was something that they were concerned about and they were engaged and they loved it. So they put all their effort in it, although we had very limited time. But they did their best, and I think that they created a small change, but they created change because their parents, the other teachers, their classmates, they all saw that, oh, look what they've done, and yes, this is an issue actually, but we can do something about it, and we can be heard, and we can make a difference. So I think that was the best part of the project.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very, very much. So yes, Design for Change starts in Greece. The Korydallos, two children from Korydallos, and you, I think, and Anezina and I myself, we all going to Dubai because there is an annual conference there. That's where I went last year with Myrto, and I promised myself that by next year there would be a Greek delegation, because there were delegations from 40 countries around the world, and it was so beautiful. Every time a delegation presented what they had done, there were sort of hundreds of kids around, and they were all crying, "Mission accomplished." So if one day we can say mission accomplished, then I think we could be really proud of ourselves and of our children. So thank you very, very, very much, very much. We still have a very small surprise for you. It's a song of hope. It's called Seeds of Hope. It's part of our very big project we succeeded to do in Olympia. We try to be inspired by ancient sites, and obviously ancient Olympia, who could not be inspired by ancient Olympia? But we have been lucky here. We met a wonderful lady, probably one of the biggest voices today in opera, Joyce Di Donato, the star of the Metropolitan Opera, who came to Greece in a tour she did around the world to sing a performance she called Eden. Eden, like the lost Garden of Eden. And what she wanted to do, she realized during COVID that the only thing she could do to contribute to change was to use her voice, to use her art, the opera. So she put together a wonderful repertoire, a wonderful performance that she called Eden, with 15 lyric songs from Baroque to Gluck. And then she started traveling around the world performing that performance. Obviously, when you are Joyce Di Donato, you can perform it at the Scala di Milano, Covent Garden, Carnegie Hall, in Asia, in Beijing, in Korea, in all the big operas of the Northern Hemisphere. When she came to Greece just one night, that was enough for us to meet her and to propose a different approach. We asked her, how many people will watch your wonderful Eden performance. And how many people even go to the opera? How many people even know about opera? So what if we did a film with Eden, and then we could have a tool that we could bring around the world, and actually Eden will be performed at the COP meeting for climate change in Baku in a couple of months. But where shall we do the film, did she ask us? In which opera? And we said, no, forget about an opera. You want to make a film about nature. So let's go out. Let's go out somewhere where nature really looks like Eden. And then, because of course you know by now that we love working in ancient sites, we had this idea that the one site that looked like Eden, I'm sorry, Poppy, it's not Elefsina, okay? It's not Delos either, but it certainly is ancient Olympia. So the last thing I need to say before you see this very small song, it's just one song, is that Joyce DiDonato felt that she wanted children to sing a song with her. And children themselves wrote this song, which is called Seeds of Hope. It was written by children. It is performed by children, by 3 children choirs in Olympia, a French one, a Greek one, and a refugee choir. And they sing with her in Olympia. And this will be our last thing for tonight, Seeds of Hope by Joyce DiDonato in the ancient site of Olympia. For the rest, I want to thank everybody, all our amazing team, very small, very effective, hopefully, as you've seen over those 3 days. If they are around, please join me. Join me, Angeliki, Stella, come on, Myrto, of course, from up there. Johan, join me. No, nobody wants to join me. Come on. No, now, Myrto. Now, come on, you join us. Vicky, whom you know, particularly those who have traveled from abroad. Myrto, Johan, Gerasimos. Okay, here. No. Tora. Ella. Okay. I don't see Stavroula. I don't see Stavroula, but okay. There comes one more. And of course, Myrto Pezula, to whom we owe this wonderful arrangement here, inside and outside. Come on, Myrto. And obviously, one of the very few men we have around, Kostas Haralambidis and his technical team. Come on, Kostas. Come on. We would never have been able to do this amazing technical thing you've seen without Kostas. So, yes, this is our team. We have traveled together to Delos. We have traveled together to Olympia. We have traveled together to Elefsina. And we plan to share our beautiful ancient sites with the whole world. So, one photo, I think. Okay, who's taking the photo? Oh, Gina. Okay. Thank you. And now, Seeds of Hope.